Hey there, Nicki Traikos here of Life by Design. I wanted to shoot this really quick video to show you how you can use the Paint With Me ebooks that I've created for you to help you painting more with watercolors. I've had a lot of questions about how to transfer the motifs. Let me pull one up for you here. So how to transfer these motifs onto your watercolor paper. There's a few different ways that I recommend that you do that, and the three that I'll show you in this video are one, using a light box, but for some of you who don't have a light box handy, I'll show you how to use graphite tracing paper, and I'll show you the one that I actually recommend and use myself, and also how to use just a sunny, bright window so that you can trace the motif onto your watercolor paper. So let's get started. So what I've done first is grabbed my light box. So some of you may not have a light box if you're new to art and really don't have the need for it, but essentially what a light box does is it just creates a little bit of light for you to be able to see through the paper that you're tracing onto. So watercolor paper is quite thick. I'm actually going to demonstrate using this new Fabriano. It's 25% cotton. It's a really nice paper. You can actually paint on both sides, which is really cool. So what you would do essentially is you would lay down your motif into the light tracer box and then place your watercolor paper over top so that you're able to see your motif and you're able to trace it quite easily. So if I were to grab a pencil, we'll just do a leaf, just really loosely following the shape. And when I drew these motifs for you, I really wanted to create a bit of space so that you had an opportunity to paint the motif as you see it, but also so you can add detail if you choose. I personally don't like to add a lot of detail. I create maybe loose, realistic versions, an illustrative style of what I see, but again, you can add as much detail to them as you prefer. So I'll go ahead and turn that off. So again, really easy. This is quite a large and clunky one. I've had this for years. I'm waiting for it to die so I can get a new sleek thin one. But this is by Artograph. It's a light tracer light box. So I do have one linked to an Amazon listing on my site. So just so you have an idea of which ones I recommend you give a try. And they're not too expensive. So if you wanted to invest in one, you could easily. Okay, so moving on. The next way that you can transfer the motif onto paper is by using transfer paper. So in the past, I've used carbon transfer paper, and I have to say this new transfer paper that I got from my local Curry's art supply store, it is a graphite-based transfer paper, and I think you can actually put it through your printer. So if you wanted to print the motif directly onto the transfer paper, you could. I don't think it's necessary personally. I think that it's great to be able to use sheets over and over again. But essentially, you just pick up one of your graphite sheets. So again, we'll use the pear as an example. So you can go ahead and put the watercolor paper down first because that's what we want to transfer onto. Your graphite paper goes over top. So you want the graphite side down onto your watercolor paper. And it's great because the graphite doesn't transfer onto the watercolor paper if you're just pushing down in spots. And then you want to have facing up so you can see your motif, the motif that you're tracing. Now I've tested this paper a few different times, and I want you to use like a 2B pencil, so a softer lead, so that when you're actually tracing, and let's trace another leaf, when you're actually tracing, it transfers onto your watercolor paper a little bit more intensely so you can see the image. It's more dark, and then that way when you're going to paint it, you're able to see that transfer. So I'll go ahead and remove it and show you what that looks like. So you can see hopefully that second leaf there. And again, it's pencil, so you can erase it if you want. You can change it as you're tracing, and then these sheets are reusable. So you could use this sheet over and over again, which is really great. So again, the paper was inexpensive. I'll go ahead and make sure that I at least link to something so you have a visual. So again, the Amazon links that I have on my site, I do earn a small commission if you do choose to purchase through the links, which is great, thank you. But if not, I would shop within your means. So whatever country you're in, I know there's different art supplies that we have access to, but at least you have a visual of what it looks like online so that when you're shopping in your local area, you're able to find hopefully something that's comparable. So now the next way that you can transfer is just using a window. So it's very similar to the light box. However, you're using a window, which I'll show you in my studio, so that you can transfer the image onto your watercolor paper, okay? Okay, hopefully you can see this okay. I am working towards the sun, so shooting against the sun is a little bit more challenging in terms of the shadows and that, but hopefully you can see the process. So what I want you to do is find a sunny window that you can work from. Go ahead and lay the photocopy onto the window. Hopefully you can see this, it is quite bright today. And then hopefully you can see how easy it is for you to transfer. Let's go ahead and line up to what I originally did. You can go ahead and just really easily and loosely trace that motif. Okay, so go ahead and remove it. And I'm hoping you can see that. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so just find a sunny window. If you don't have tracing paper or a light box, no problem. Grab your printout, place your watercolor paper over top, and trace away. Okay, I'll see you in a second. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about how I suggest you approach these paintings. So you can see in front of me, I have a ton of the motifs that I've painted for you. When I first decided to create these ebooks for you, I had my watercolor students in mind. So if you're just starting out with watercolors and you don't know what to paint, or that's sort of what's stopping you from sitting down to paint, these ebooks are exactly for you. That's who I've designed them for. What they do is they remove that stress and anxiety of having to draw something out before you sit down and paint, especially if you're unable to sketch motifs maybe that speak to you. So that's one element that I've removed from that process for you. And also what I've done is I've kept them really clean so that you can interpret them how you see them. If you've taken any of my classes, you know that my philosophy around painting is very loose and relaxed. And I encourage you to not worry so much about what your end result looks like. That's why I was hesitant with including images of the pieces painted, because I don't want you to feel the pressure of having to paint them exactly as I have or exactly what the photo reference looks like. I really want you to enjoy the process of putting that brush to paper and just playing with color, using colors that speak to you, and enjoying the process of practice. Because each time you sit down to paint, you get better at it. Even when you paint something you dislike, again, if you're in any of my watercolor classes, you know that I encourage you to paint something and embrace the fact that maybe it didn't turn out as well as you hoped or expected, because you can learn so much from painting something that you didn't like the end process of, or what the piece looked like, and paint it again and paint it so that you remove the things that you dislike so that you can paint something that you enjoy. You will surprise yourself. I get messages all the time from students who can't believe they painted what they just painted, and to me that's so exciting and liberating. So what I've done is, this is from my advanced class, but I have painted them a few times, and I've actually started a gallery. So I uploaded them. They're on lifebydesign.com if you want to check them out, but I'm going through the ebook images and painting them for you so that you have a visual reference. And again, I don't want you to think about reproducing them exactly as I painted them for you. I really want you to explore colors that you love and paint them as you see them. So I'm a big fan of greenery. So again, that's just how I would interpret it in that sitting. I may try to paint, played around the other day, I may try to paint something completely different. I've painted this rose at least 4 times now. And this is a completely different style than what I would normally paint with. And even the colors that I use, this is actually just one color despite the green. So I guess 2 colors, but I've just pushed myself to approach a painting maybe a little bit differently each time to try it on for size. So it may not be something that I love. It may not be something that I continue to explore, but again, unless you try it, you don't know if you'll like it or not. And you don't know if you'll actually be good at it or not. So I encourage you to try and play around with them. Okay, so my intention for the ebooks, and thank you for everyone who's sent me messages and shared pictures. I'm really happy that you're connecting with the motifs and you've been able to paint with them. So I encourage you to explore them some more. And for those of you who are maybe struggling with techniques and maybe needing a little bit more instruction, check out the watercolor classes. So WaterColors Made Simple is the beginner class, and I take you through the very basic and beginning. And we go through lots of painting practices and projects and have a lot of fun with painting. And then if you're a little bit more advanced, go ahead and look at the advanced class. This is where we paint more, and again, we repeat the process of painting the same motifs, so you can really explore how to create a bit of depth, again, still in that loose realism illustrative style that I love so much. And just find ways that you can practice and paint more often, because the more you sit down to paint, the easier the process becomes, the more confidence you'll build, the more techniques you'll build, and you'll just have more fun sitting down to your watercolor and art practice. So thank you again for purchasing the eBooks. I'm hoping to create more of these as we go, to create more opportunities for you to paint and explore watercolors along with me. Thanks so much, and I'll see you soon.